presentation.
I can't.
You can't until you go live.
No, I can't. Did you happen to share
Oh, maybe not,
it? Sorry.
but I totally am right now.
It's okay. Yeah, no, he doesn't have it.
Sharing right now. Sorry about that.
Start. Yeah. Something else will get worked out.
Thank you. Does that work?
Can't get the MU off the top of the screen again.
We're live right now. Hi, everybody. We're getting set up if you're watching from home. In just about a minute, we'll start our presentation.
My apologies.
All right, it's all good. Hi, everyone. I'm Maureen Cohen. I'm the superintendent in Mendon-Upton.
I'm Jay Byer. I'm the director of finance for the school district.
And the purpose of tonight is to provide an additional informational session for those that are here tonight and for those who are watching at home, either live or will be watching this after. We're going to begin with an overview of our capital projects that will be coming forward to the town meetings and also to the ballot votes that are coming up in a few weeks. It's organized into 3 capital projects. So you can see here on the screen, we have the first warrant article will be a roof project, and that's here at Nipmuc Regional. And I'll be going over all the details for all of this, and then we'll answer any questions after. The second project is a facilities project, which impacts all of the schools. And we will go through that. And then the third one will be a fields and grounds project, which is impacting Misco Hill Middle School and Nipmuc Regional High School. The most important slide that I like in the presentation is this slide because it gives you a little bit of the historical perspective on all of our buildings. If you take a look at the upper left, you have Misco Hill Middle School, which was started to be built in 1958 and came on board in 1960. And a number of years later, you can see on the bottom a bit of a timeline. We had a renovation done to the school in 1997. But the school is 65 years old, and we have a few items that we'll be bringing forward in the project that are really essential for that school. When you look at Nipmuc High School is about 29 years old. It was built in 1996. And then you'll see a few years later, we had Memorial Elementary School in Upton and Clough Elementary School in Mendon. They're about 22 years old that were built. When I like to point out the timeline below that we've had these gaps of about 30 to 36 years in between the large investments in our buildings in the district, and we're coming upon about 30 years right now, which is part of our timeline and our planning with our capital plan that we're bringing forward this spring. When we talk about the timeline and how we got here, sometimes we receive questions of when did you start this process? When did you start looking at it? This is my 4th year as superintendent in the district and my 12th year working in the district. In the last 4 years, when I came on board, we noted and was brought to my attention the need to really focus in on some of the bigger facility needs that we have. So we contracted with Habib and Associates, and they performed a facilities assessment of all of our buildings and grounds. When they came up with an initial list and was presented to school committee, it ended up being approximately 90 million of work that needed to be done across all the schools and the fields, but that was broken up into different scopes of work. So you had critical needs that needed to be done right away, some that were in the 6 to 10 year range, and some that were preventative. What we formed a capital planning subcommittee with school committee in 2022, and for the last few years we have been going through the facilities assessment and other feedback internally, and identified an initial list ourselves, which we have worked through, and it's what we're bringing forward. So we've reduced that 90 million down to 30 million that's in what we're presenting coming up. The second thing of note is we have been accepted into the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program for it's the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and they have a program called Accelerated Repair Program, so ARP, and that is for windows and it's for roofs. And they shut it down right after COVID. So we were eyeing when they were going to bring it back, because we knew that our Nipmuc roof was over the 25-year mark, which is one of their marks for years. And we're at 29 years now for that. And we applied, and we're fortunate to be accepted into that program. Some people, beyond the last 4 years of all the work that we've done leading up to this, I went back into our records, and we actually had an initial list of facility needs that were created going all the way back to 2013. And specifically to our fields here at Nipmuc, we had Gale and Associates do a Nipmuc field study and master plan, and we're using some of that. That master plan has been presented to school committee a few times and been updated with some committees that we've had related to field. So when you look at all of the build up to right now, it's actually been about a decade of planning and working through some of the details. I like to begin talking just a little bit high level about maintenance best practices, because sometimes in this presentation I have to show the areas that we need to replace or items that might be in disrepair at this point, because we have some aging aspects of our facilities. But I need to point out how well maintained our building is. And this is an image of a best practices in school facilities maintenance planning. Really proud of the work that members of our team work through every day. Even we're in Nipmuc right now. When you walk into Nipmuc, a lot of people, it's the first time they're here, they say that this must be a brand new building, but actually it goes back into the 90s, but because it's so well maintained. And even though we have some aging buildings, particularly MISCO, we do a lot of work on that. So we have a maintenance plan that we updated and was approved by MSBA. That's comprehensive. We have annual preventative maintenance plans. We had a homeland security assessment done in 2023 in order to identify ways that we can improve the safety and security of all of our facilities and grounds. We had the facilities assessment, which I mentioned, and formed the capital planning subcommittee, which we had never had before. We have a comprehensive strategic plan that we're always talking about, and we've had a few surveys to get some input along the way. Something else we like to point out are, because sometimes we get a question, why are these particular items coming forward for capital bond request? And the reason is we have many maintenance examples that are in this list on these two slides. I'll kind of go back and forth between what we've done at Memorial and Clough, but also at Nipmuc and at MISCO. And it's close to 3 million in improvements out of some operational funds. But some of the improvements we have cannot be done within our operational funds. And we're more than happy to answer questions on this, but we thought that was important to point out that we are maintaining it throughout this last decade as well. This is a simple flyer that we have that you can find online, but it gives an overview of what we're addressing with the roof project, facilities, fields and grounds. And I will do a run through of all of these, and Jay will jump in at times and offer some clarification too. But with the roof project here at Nipmuc, the most important point that I want to emphasize is the importance and the good news of us being accepted into MSBA. Because we're accepted, we will be having the opportunity to receive 52.26 reimbursement from any of the approved roof project work, anything that is approved by them. This will require being passed at both town meetings and both ballot votes. If it fails at any of those, it would mean that, and we might, come back again and try again. We have one more time to, try to get it passed. But if it fails in any of the four, then we would be removed from this pipeline. They only are doing it every 2 years pending their state funding. And we would then have a roof that's 31 and 32 years old and still leaking. And that's something I'd like to begin to give you a couple images and tell you a story of the impact that it's having here at the school. When I walk in the back door of the school, the first thing I often see, and this was from a few weeks ago when we had some of the rain, we have barrels in the hallways because of the leaking coming in through the grates. When I turn left, I see the music room, and that is always in the music room that's funneling the water that leaks there. There's a picture on the right of the ceiling tile. We are always replacing these, but the ceiling tile, that was just from a couple weeks ago in the main office because a lot of leaks are coming through guidance and the school nurse's office and also into the main office. But my story that I like to share is I walked down the social studies hall one time and I saw barrel, and water's just like pouring from the ceiling into the barrels, not just the dripping that you see, but pouring through. And we just know that this is going to obviously continue to get worse. And we all know that roofs tend to last 20 to 30 years, and we are at that 30-year mark. This is an image from above of the school, so you have a sense of the asphalt shingle roof that we're looking to replace. We've had significant wear and tear from weather exposure, and I just gave you some potential structural damage that we'd be concerned about in the future. We also have an EPDM roof membrane, and that's that black top that you see there. This also would be reimbursable by the state. And on top of across the roof, we have multiple rooftop units and air handling units. And this part is not part of the reimbursement from the state, but we're going to need to take all the units off in order to put the roof on. And so our plan is, of course, not to put 30-year-old HVAC units, rooftop units onto the roof, but it would be important to replace those as well. When you look at the roof project total cost estimate, you can see the roof there, the cost, the HVAC, and then the total Nipmuc roof is a little over 10 million. We're required by MSBA to go forward and have that full request. But as we go through the process with them, we will continue to be reimbursed. And that reimbursement of that amount is at 4 million. And so the net cost will end up being about 6 million for the roof project. Do you have anything to add, Jay, that I missed?
No, I think, the process for reimbursement is as once we were allowed to submit bills, they allow us to get reimbursed based on what they determine is reimbursable. So it's an ongoing thing.
Thank you. We did break down the numbers of all the details of cost estimates. I'm going to, just for the sake of time, kind of quickly go through these. These are all located on our website. So anyone who's very interested in cost of things and estimates that we have can go deep, but I'll just keep it to the high level right now. The second project that we're bringing forward is what we're calling the facilities project. It's impacting and addressing the aging facilities security and impact on student learning. I'll first start about the facilities projects that are impacting all 4 schools. We have a couple items across all 4 schools. The first one is our building management system. For those who might not know what this is, a good way to describe it, it's like the brains of the building for, you explain it better,
building management system, what that does is control the temperature in each room, the air exchange in each room. It opens louvers, bring in outside air, release inside air, it heats it. It basically controls all of the climate within the building. And the systems that we currently have at Nipmuc is no longer operable, and also is that you can't get parts to replace it. So it's being run manually. So it's still doing what it's supposed to, but somebody has to go down there and open it and close it. We had the same issue at Clough and Memorial, and at NISCO, it's even older than that. NISCO and Nipmuc systems run on a pneumatic system, so we got little tubes of air that go throughout the building. So when we develop a leak, it's very difficult to find. We're looking to upgrade it to a wireless system in all 4 buildings, and we change some of the components so that this thing operates properly, so we control the rooms the way they should be controlled.
And so I'm going to explain it to me and gave the image of, imagine you have a house and you have the thermostat and you have 100 rooms, but you have just the one zone rather than multiple zones or control. That's kind of what happens in the building. It'll get really hot in certain rooms. They have to open the window because it's just too hot in certain times. And we're also looking for just more efficient systems to run. Second, across all 4 schools, we're looking to have a single point access to reduce the number of access points available. And we currently have keys to all of the doors, and that we'd be able to do key card or key fob in order to get in and funnel people into certain doors. It will enhance our security in multiple ways. It controls the unauthorized access, but it also helps us to track entry and exit times, with some of the cards. It's customizable depending on the type of system we would get, where you could, have some doors be open at a certain time with a certain card, and it would really, it's one of the first things that they recommended to us in the Homeland Security assessment that we had done. Also building off of that with safety and security, this is our second favorite picture from the presentation. First, our favorite one comes later, but this is our MISCO caging system. We're looking to replace our paging and timekeeping systems at all of the buildings. This is obviously the oldest one that we have, but they're obsolete. We're looking for reliable emergency notification systems in the schools. It kind of sounds like the Charlie Brown, like whoa, 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 you can't really hear it in some of the rooms. Here at Nipmuc, the large spaces, it's just too quiet, you can't hear it. And it also, you look to have it so it's in all of the rooms where there would be individuals, and not all of the rooms, all the buildings have that. And so that's a pretty comprehensive overhaul to replace that, which is why it's in here. But it also came up in our facilities assessment, and also it came up in our as something that you need to have through the Homeland Security assessment. The facilities project at Nipmuc. First thing we have is data cabling. We were able to replace our data cabling back at MISCO. I don't know how many years it was.
2016.
Okay, 2016. Jay has the best memory
It was
ever.
through a grant.
Yeah, and we had a grant for that. And what we found is that prior to that, a lot of devices like telephone, security cameras, sensors, wireless access points, etc., they all are plugged in, to the wires here. And right now we're operating off of some from 1996 here in this building, and items just aren't working as well. When we replaced it at MISCO, it made a big difference, and we're looking to do that here at Nipmuc as well.
We'll comment on that.
Yep.
I think the important thing to understand there is that on any given day, we might have 2,000 to 2,500 devices at each school on our system. It's a lot. It's not like your house where you maybe have 6 people and 10 computers.
That's a great point. Thank you. In Nipmuc Auditorium, when you look at the picture on the left, you go, wow, what a beautiful auditorium, and it is. But when you get up close, what you're going to see are broken 30-year-old fabric seats that are pretty worn down, just like the furniture in here. So a little worn down. But you also have the broken seats that when you go to sit in it, if you see one of those, that you have to kind of hold yourself up in those seats. So just know that's a broken seat there. We cannot replace those seats at this point, and therefore that's making it difficult for us. And also that is a ripped carpet that you see the moment you walk in to the auditorium, because we're looking close to 30 years of carpeting in there. We would pull up all the seats out, replace them, and replace the carpet. The flooring, the classroom carpets and tiles, same thing. Same reasons, want to make sure that we are replacing all of that. We do maintain them as best as we're able to, and some are in decent shape, but they are starting to fray. The facilities project at MISCO, this is the favorite slide. This is an oil-filled transformer from 1958. It does still work, so that's the good news right now, but we can all agree it's significantly exceeding its 20 to 30 year lifespan at this point, and it's a high failure risk. We do have power outages that come into the school like externally, but we're concerned about this not working. It's connected to switchgear, which is original as well, and a high risk for failure. And we kind of tell the story that we've been advised not to do kind of like a full reset of the switchgear because pretty certain the power won't come back on if we were to ever do that. And we also are looking to have a generator at MISCO, which is the next slide I'll point to in a minute, but we can't have a generator with an old switchgear with an old transformer. And some people don't know the need for the the need for the generator. We have power that comes into MISCO from Mendon in a line and from Upton in a line. And even though, especially coming in from Upton, you know, they do a great job trying to cut back the trees and the branches, but with the really windy storms that we now have, the lines are coming down, and then we're out power to a good portion of the building. When MISCO does not, and I'll go to the generator here, that is in our request. As a large facility, we have hundreds of middle school students. It is pitch black. When I talk to the students, or people who have come through MISCO, they say, yeah, I remember we got sent home in the middle of the day because we can't keep students because it's pitch black. We do have battery operated emergency lights, but they're not as strong as what you would have, with a generator, supported lighting. And as a result, we also don't have water and can't use the bathroom. So we can't keep students in the building and under those conditions very easily. And we are impacted pretty frequently, or might have to call just MISCO for school. But I want to emphasize too, beyond just students, is that MISCO then could be used as an emergency shelter if we had a generator, because we do have large spaces and we do have showers and other things in kitchens, but we would need to be able to have the backup generator. For our bathrooms, this is a picture of bathroom at MISCO. Many of the classroom sinks are not ADA compliant. The bathroom fixtures, toilets, and sinks were designed originally for elementary students and need to be replaced for age appropriate level for middle school. We have done some work in one of the bathrooms and found that the replacement of the pipes and the fixtures just was, too exorbitant of a cost for us to go ourselves out of operational and do all of the bathrooms, which is why it's part of this. This is something that is the number one thing that students bring when they do their civic action projects of how to improve the schools. And the number one thing is to improve the bathrooms. And we've been doing what we can with We Care MISCO to try to help, upgrade and clean and paint and do as much as we can, but we still need to deal with the fixtures. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, the only thing people have to remember is when the building was renovated in '97, the intent then was that MISCO was going to be a kindergarten, grade 5 building, and all of the fixtures in the bathrooms were designed for little children. We now have a 5 through 8 building, and they're much larger students than kindergarten through 5th grade. So the facilities that are in the bathrooms just are not appropriate for the age group that's in the building.
Thank you. And then this picture always speaks for itself. It's a set of lockers from the original building that was not replaced in the renovation. That clearly needs to be replaced, and so we can use it with our students. This is an example of one of the tiles and what's happening with the tiles at this point at MISCO. We're fortunate to use some federal grants that we had a number of years back, and we were able to do some upgrades, about 15 rooms, and it's been really significant in the rooms that we've upgraded. But in this project proposal is to finish the rest of the rooms. And then, yep.
I was going to say,
yeah, sure.
With the carpets at Nipmuc and MISCO, we have replaced them in several areas when it became a safety hazard, when the rips were just too large. But it's fairly expensive to do individual rooms, one at a time. We've tried to do the best we can to keep up with them, but at this point, we really need to do something because the carpets are 30 years old.
Thank you. Facilities project for Memorial Elementary School in Clough. We have window sealants that are about 21, 22 years old, and so the caulking around is coming off and all dried up. You can kind of see it in the pictures, and so the stories and images that I've seen is water's just seeping into the windows and causing damage internally. It's a pretty large project to do all of the windows in those buildings, which is why we've included it here. At times we have tried to fix some of them as we've gone, but it's kind of beyond. We need almost all of them to be done. And that leads to the curbs and sidewalks at the schools. We're focusing in on Clough Elementary and Memorial for their curbing. And right now, if you go right up to the front of Clough Elementary, you can see the curbing's just crumbling right as you're walking to the front of our school. So that's the first impression you see when our school. But what I mostly care about is the fact that it's a safety hazard. And we have been fixing it and patching it throughout the years. But a bus will hit it, a truck will hit it, salt will, it will disintegrate over time. But it's at a point where it's needs to really be redone. The overall total cost estimate for the facilities project is a little bit over 11 million when you combine all of them together. Something I'd like to point out are the estimates of the designer and OPM costs, the owner's project manager. We're estimating we've been told about 18%-ish range for that. We do anticipate it will come in underneath that amount, but that's the amount that we're recommended to go forward with. And also we do get a lot of questions on contingencies, on whether or not we have contingencies, built in. We have questions on tariffs and the impact of that. We have 25% contingency in there for tariffs and potential impact. And that's all part of the estimates. This is broken down. If you're interested in looking specifically at some of the amounts, it's all on our website. So I'll just kind of go through the school so you can kind of get a sense, but this presentation is on our website and I'll show you that at the end. So then it leads us to the Fields and Grounds project, and we've organized it so it kind of makes sense visually and you can understand it around NISCO. And then we have back fields at Nipmuc and we have front fields at Nipmuc as well. And the Fields and Grounds project is actually impacting multiple playing fields. It's not just about the front of the building or one building, et cetera. It's 6 to 8, and it impacts multiple athletic teams in the community as well. But we similarly have inadequate fields, aging fields. We're focused on safety, and I'll talk a lot about accessibility. The first area that I'll talk about right here is the Fields and Grounds at NISCO. This is kind of an image of the MISCO portion that we would be doing the upgrades to and renovating, kind of from different angles. The large picture on the left is when you're facing, you're in left field at the baseball field, and then the upper right, you're kind of turning and you're heading over it, kind of look towards the softball fields in the distance. But that area you can see, that's our left field right there. And that extension of that field is also used for youth soccer, gym classes, field hockey. I was told today lacrosse, cross country run through there too, and also used for flag football. It's full of divots. It's been really hard to maintain because we don't have an irrigation system in this field. And that would be a big part of what we'd be doing, but also we would be renovating, regrading it, and solve the safety issues that we have there. This is the most utilized field by youth groups and also our students in our district. Want to add anything, or is that?
No, it's just important at NISCO to understand that field is used tremendously. It's hard.
Right,
So
it's compacted. Yeah.
When a baseball hits it, it bounces up and hits kids in the head. There's a lot of issues there that we just need to go and regrade it so that it's more level, so it becomes a more functional field.
Our other field that, if people are familiar with NISCO, there's another field up in the back. I like where football plays, and there's like a gravel track around it. That is in good shape because it has irrigation. We've been able to maintain it, so we don't have the same issues there. When we go to Nipmuc, I'd like to give just a general overview, and then I'll walk you through some of the various fields. But we have similar issues with field conditions of uneven terrain, divots and holes, students telling me stories of getting hurt, and ACLs being torn, etc. For athletes, we have safety issues for spectators. I see this image in the upper right. I'd like to begin with that, talking about lack of accessibility. That always floods in that area. And that area, as part of this project, would be paved. There'd be paving, and I'll show you the picture after where you can see how to get back to that back field. But, heard about a parent that had fallen, like that was the story I heard today because of it's not accessible. We also don't have like walking paths around the fields, or when we want to have vehicles, either emergency vehicles getting back, like that's a fear that I have as superintendent. Is I heard a story, it was really hard to get an emergency vehicle into the back when there was a critical incident years ago. You know, they came across the field, but we would have paving that would make it easier to get to the back of the building. But also we want it to be a community, build a sense of community where the community members, Mendon-Upton, et cetera, would be able to walk around the edge, and I'll show you the walking path that's part of the project. And it talks about no lighting. People may not be aware that it's really unusual to have no lighting on any fields at a high school. Most high schools would have at least one lit section. So I live in a different town, and there are multiple sections that are lit. And as a result, you can utilize the fields with one, you know, there's a turf field that increases utilization, but then with the lights, you're then able to use it all throughout the night. And I know we have issues with youth not having access to enough fields in both of our towns, and we're collectively trying to work on this. This will help. It won't solve all the problems, but it will help. Beyond increasing utilization, something else that it's going to be able to do is create the kind of community events that I'd like to see at our buildings and our sporting events and events for school. And if we have this 1 week where it's the week of the lights, and youth paid for the lights to come in, and I went to the Friday night football game. There was like 1,000 people there. That's the community. You can have that every single Friday in the football season. You can have that on Thursday when you have soccer. You can have it on Wednesday. It's all sports that are able to use those fields. You can rotate through, and field hockey can come in. That's the kind of community that we're looking to have, and that you can build and can really bring everybody together. And I've seen that impact where I live, and I'd love for it to be here. So that's part of like the impact of lights. Some people don't know that we have an amazing track team. Amazing, but we don't have a track. And so what do our students do? Well, I heard stories. They run hurdles. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. They do the hurdles in the cafeteria here. And it's not even like the distance that you need to do for, I guess, the number of hurdles you're supposed to be doing. I don't know a lot about that, but they were explaining it to me. They will use the gravel track sometimes at NISCO, not regulation. Not even a real track that they're running on for meets. They run in our streets. Doesn't seem great, you know, when we're working on this, and running in our halls. And every meet, they can never have a meet here, so we have to rent out BBT. We have to rent, go to Douglas and go elsewhere. I would say, they deserve a track. An amazing group. And what's something people might not know, track really in fields isn't really like a cut sport, so it's so inclusive that anyone can join, and it impacts. We have so many students that are involved in that. I'm going to jump to the back just to give you a sense of the softball and baseball, and I'm going to flip through to just show you. This is on the upper left is our baseball field, and the bottom right is our softball field, and we will be moving the softball field and reorienting it to the right and moving it back a bit. It's too short of a field right now, where it's hitting like that baseball field line in the woods right there for high school. It's also what I've been told and described is like there are these kind of drop-offs in some of our fields too. It's really uneven. I was talking to some baseball players today, and they were telling me stories. I said, tell me what it's like playing on the baseball field. Well, one, like I'm a baseball mom. I live on baseball fields, and I've never seen a backstop as far away as the backstop that we have here ever. And we would be moving the field closer to the backstop when we redo it. But one of the players said, it's so dry in the field, it's just like a dust bowl all of the time for all the grass. There just isn't like the grass that we would need. We do have irrigation in some of these sections, but we used to have more shallow wells. We've been working on trying to have deeper wells. Correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but some of the spigots need to be replaced too, right?
When the system was put in, the wells are 12-foot deep bedrock wells. So if it doesn't rain, there's not a supply of water. So the irrigation doesn't. It does work, My understanding is that they brought in some fill after they put the irrigation in, so the piping and all the spigots and everything are about 18 inches down, so it makes it really difficult to repair something that should be relatively easy to pop up, replace the sprinkler head and send it back down. We can't really do that because it's so far down. At this point, I'd say about 70% of the system is no longer working. Again, it was put in 1997, so it's certainly we got our money's worth, but it's time to upgrade it.
Thank you. I like this picture because a lot of people don't see all the fields like on one, no one's really above the fields, right, to see it like that. These are all of our fields, and if you can imagine, the walking path is going to go all around these fields, and the walking path is going to be about 1 mile is how long the path will be. When you go to the design here, everything in blue is the walking path. I'll explain a little bit here. These are the plans. In order to fit the track in this front area, it would be at an angle. We'd be moving, some of the land in order to have enough there for the track. Up here would be an accessible route, the press box up here. One thing I'd like to point out is not everyone knows that when Nipmuc was built, we didn't have a football team at the time, so we didn't have a facility built, like a stadium type facility built for football or any large stadium type sports. So our announcers, you can see how they're standing and how we have to manage those games right now. In here, you can see parking. We're looking to have additional parking that's closer. This is the paved area where it was flooded before, right there. It's hard to see, but there's a black line that kind of shows how the field would be adjusted for the softball there. It came up some questions that if it's possible, we can put some conduit in the path over here where maybe in the future you could add lights, baseball, softball, if that was something that people wanted to do in the future, and we could do that in the path as underneath. I'm trying to think what else. I'd like to talk about accessibility and how at the road, I'm going to show you the field right here, and so it would be turned, but right over here in a neighboring town of Grafton, you can, if you've been there or if you haven't, when you come in, you're coming in right at the top of the stands, and they're built into the ground. That's kind of the same type of stands that we'd be putting there. And I explained, for accessibility purposes, when I bring my mom, who's 81, and she goes to watch my son play in a football game, I can bring her in the wheelchair and she can see everything, from the game. When you come now, there's nowhere that you can see the game because you don't have a lot of accessible spaces. Something with this front field with the grass, you can see where some of the spigots aren't working. The line down the middle is from, and what did I do? Did I do something? This is network connection.
That's the reason to replace the data cable.
Did we get dropped off or?
No, we're still.
Oh, we're still on. All right. So as Sam fixes that, I'll just talk a little bit. Okay, on the slide that I was just showing, you can see the goal marks that are impacted in the damage on the field, and you can see also on the edge where the bleachers are, and the size of it doesn't really fit the needs when you have large crowds that are coming to some of these games as well. Thank you for helping. Once it gets it up and running, then I'll go to the slide that shows you
pick your town, pick your projects, and we'll tell you what's.
So if we just jump ahead, like just to all of them together, all projects together, just to give an overview.
So if you put all three projects together, we get a positive vote on all three for a $600,000 house. It is approximately $380 in Mendon, and it's about $368 in Upton. One important point that I like to point out, because we've been asked before about the difference between turf or grass on the field here at Nipmuc. The difference cost-wise is about $500,000. The tax impact on that $500,000 to approve the project, but just do grass instead of turf, would be about $7 a year, they would say. So it's not a big hit for the turf itself. You know, the cost of the project is what it is. But all three based on approximately $30 million. Like I said, you know, you're looking at 380, so just under $400 in both term and annual basis. And it's a debt exclusion. It's a 20-year debt is what we'd probably be looking at. So once the debt is paid off, it comes off tax. It's not, I realize that's 20 years from now, but that's how the debt exclusions work.
Just to give you a heads up on next steps, and then I'll want to show you the website, and then we can, you know, answer any questions that might come up from anyone watching or anyone in the room. We have an informational meeting tonight. We've been presenting all over. There's lots of I have a couple of the presentations that are online, but we'll be adding some.
You are in the meeting.
Those are the aliens.
Sam is making it interesting tonight. Are we good?
Are starting, so was gonna keep this out of the. I turned on the,
Okay.
Saturdays, but we should.
Do you think we're good?
I apologize.
That's okay. You know, it's getting a little boring there anyways, talking about taxes.
You saw those circles on the field, that's
Yeah.
where it comes from,
Right.
those aliens.
All right, we have this presentation, and then right after break, we have a school committee meeting in here, and we're gonna have like a hearing right before at 6:30. If anyone wants to come and ask questions, then they have that ability then too. We have the town meetings are coming up right after our school break. So the Upton town meeting is on May 1st, and that's here, the Mendon town meeting on May 2nd, and then we have the elections that are following. And again, just as a reminder, it has to, for a project to go through and be approved, it has to pass at all four of those spots. And it's majority at all of those as well. It's not 2/3, but it's majority. And I know that's a question that's come up as well. And I'm also after break, I'm gonna do another just a Zoom, be available and do the presentation. That'll go out like on Tuesday if anyone missed this and, you know, wanted an opportunity. Won't be live in person, but I'll do another one on that Tuesday as well. Now, I'm going to show the website. Which I think is important. When you go to our main website, there's a button right here that says capital project, and it brings you right to our main page. On that page, just a quick overview here. You can ask a question directly there. I'll show you that in a minute. The flyers here. We have all these drop downs, so total project cost estimates, and then you have the presentation that I just went through is up there. A past presentation from March. I'll be adding a few. We had one at the Upton Select Board. We had one in a Mendon Select Board. I'll add that. I'll add this after from YouTube. But a couple things. When you click down, I'm gonna do the fields and grounds just to give you a sense of images. On the fields and grounds project, we have more pictures of all the fields and grounds up there that you can check out, and then more information for you for all of the fields. You can click in and get info that we just were talking about. And something else to point out that Jay was just talking about is the tax impact. So if you're looking to figure out your tax impact, you select your town, say Upton. Say you just want to find out about the roof. Say your home is valued at 500,000. Can't put any commas in there. And then the tax impact of the roof would be $65, you know, for the year. So that's how you can work through that to show you how that works. And then we have under frequently asked questions, and we'll be here for ask a question. chat bot. And then you can ask a question in there and we'll answer it. So I'll pause there. Do we have any questions? And maybe I'll need your help, Sam, on this here if you want. Or do you have it up over there?
Just want to double check to make sure this is the same.
Few people. See? So I'll, like normal, I'll start if there's any questions in the room from anybody.
So you're going to be an all or nothing vote, or will it be each with a separate?
Good question. Yeah, it's 3 different. The question was whether or not it's like all together, all or nothing. There are 3 warrant articles. So we'll do like a mini presentation of this to just give an overview, like under 20 minutes. That's the max we're allowed. And that's why we're doing all these other sessions. And then after we do that, they'll bring the first one forward, which would be the roof. They'll open up for discussion and then vote on that. Then they'll go to facilities. So it'll be, in order like that. Yeah, good question. Any other questions that you guys have? All right. Is there anyone online who has a question? Oh, someone does. Okay, allowed to talk. See, I'm figuring this out.
Yes.
Okay, Kristen, it looks like you're able to talk. Let's see if it works.
Yeah, we'll test it out. So I'm watching from home. Sorry, I couldn't join. So when the technical difficulty started, we could not see the proposed plan with the walking path. So I just wanted to let you know that we didn't see that. And right now I'm not able to enter a question in the text field to send you questions. There might be people with questions out there, but the text field is not working.
Okay, we have it set up so it's not like to do text, like if anyone wants to ask a question, they just raise their hand. So if you want to ask a question,
okay.
log in
All
and
right.
raise a hand for that.
Okay, so yeah, it looks
that's
like
good.
online there's a section to enter a message and that's not working. So, okay, so folks should raise their hand. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. And what I'll do is I'll go back into the presentation so I can show. You said it was the walking path one that got missed?
Yes, correct.
I'll do that.
Yep, we
All right,
missed that.
All right, I'll see if there are any questions and then I'll go back to that. Just let me know. Thank you. Anyone online have any questions? If so, you can just, raise your hand. Have a question? Right, I don't see any right now, so I'm just going to go back to the presentation just to show what might have been missed, okay? Here. All right, so first, just to give a sense of the Nipmuc Fields and Grounds, and the blue path that goes all the way around is the walking path that I was talking about. That would be close to a mile. But then when you look at, this is the image that I like because it gives you a sense of what that walking path would be for the community to go all around. And some people might not even know it. Actually, I didn't know this right away. There are paths that are off the wood, like in the woods also over there. So you'd be able to add that in too for those who chose to do that in addition to the path around the building. I don't know if I missed anything before in showing the fields when we had a couple technical difficulties at that time, just to kind of go through those slides in case that was missed. And total cost. Go back just to see, make sure there are no more questions before we log off. Last chance for questions. Raise your hand if you'd like. Ask a question. Don't see any. So I think we might end up closing this tonight. I'll just end with a couple items. One, if you watched, thank you very much. Thanks for those that were able to come tonight. And on that website, we do have that chat bot. Ask it a question. If it doesn't answer your question, feel free to reach out to Jay or myself, send an email, let us know if it's something you're really looking for and that information's not on the website, because our goal is to provide as much information in advance of the town meetings and the votes and answer the questions as best of our ability so people can be informed going to town meeting and to vote. But again, thank you for listening. Thank you to MUCP and all of your support. Kristen is on MUCP, so we appreciate all your support in trying to get the word out and answer questions for people online as well. And I don't know how to turn this off, Sam, but Sam's gonna shut us down, and I hope you have a good night and a good break.